Hello everyone, today I am here for my review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and I am joined by Emma Stone, who played Gwen Stacy in the Spider-Man movies. And right now she's gonna recreate her most iconic scene from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Anyways, this will be a full spoiler review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So if you have not seen it yet, go check it out and then come back to this video. I wanted to do this without spoilers, but I really cannot. Anyway, let's get right on to the review. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is tied with No Way Home as my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time. One of my top 4 comic book movies of all time for me. I just love it so much. And I was just really excited to talk about this. It's been 5 years since the last one came out. So this is a really big event, and I'm excited to get into it, especially after all the high praise calling it a masterpiece, one of the best sequels, animated movies, and comic book movies of all time. But let's get into it. So on to the mixed/negatives. Nothing really big here. Generally, I didn't have much wrong with the movie, but two things. One, this is like a tiny little nitpick. This isn't big at all. I thought they used the live action gimmick a little too much. They used it like 3 times. They used it when flashing back to Andrew. They used it for Donald Glover's cameo. They used it for the Mrs. Chen scene. And generally, those are all pretty cool, but I feel like they used it like too much. Like once or twice. I think they might use it another time other than I mentioned. Once or twice would have been fine, but I think it was a little too much. I also think the Mrs. Chen scene was a little awkward. Like that seemed a little shoehorned in just to get the Venomverse in there. But it was still kind of funny. That was a bit that I wish they only used once or twice. It kind of lost its shock value after the first time. Anyway, so that was one of my little baby criticisms. Other criticism, this one's a bit more substantial. It's not really a problem with the film, just a personal preference. I like it when movies wrap up in a satisfying way. And this movie, naturally being part 1 of a 2-part story, it ends on a cliffhanger. And that just, I feel like, messes with the pacing at the end of the movie. It's not a very satisfying ending. And I'm sure this is all going to be rectified when Beyond the Spider-Verse comes out next March. But it also makes it like, when I was watching the movie, the stakes were so high when Spider-Man was fighting all the other spiders. That was like the big climax of the movie. And that ended. And then it was just 20 minutes of wind down and build up. And it was kind of all over the place. It was like a 2-hour Spider-Man movie building up to the epic confrontation. And then it was like 20 minutes of setup for Beyond the Spider-Verse. That did less of a job of ending this movie and more of a job of acting as a bridge between those two movies. And I just feel like that could have been cut down a little bit. Because there were so many points during the last 20 minutes I was like, okay, it's going to end here. And it didn't. I was like, well, okay, it's going to end here. And then it didn't. And it just kind of kept going. And a lot of the big twists of the last 20 minutes, I kind of called them 10 minutes beforehand. Like, oh, he's in the wrong universe? Well, they kind of showed us that on the screen, but they spent 10 minutes waiting for Miles to figure it out. Or, oh, evil Miles is the Prowler? Okay, well, that's cool, but a little while ago they mentioned, Aaron Davis mentioned being the Prowler and mentioned working with Miles on a job, so they kind of revealed that already. So I don't know. I still enjoy the end of this movie. It just left me feeling a little less satisfied, more of the movie was just okay, we don't really want to put this at the beginning of Beyond the Spider-Verse, but we need to have it somewhere. Let's just kind of tack it on to the end of this movie. And I feel like they could have ended this movie in a more satisfying way, similar to how Infinity War ended, where it was a satisfying ending that closed the story. It's just, this movie's 3-act structure was a little weird. It messed with the pacing a bit near the end. It's not necessarily criticism, just a personal preference for the most part. None of it was bad stuff, just it just felt a little off, if you get what I mean. But all of that is outweighed by, here we go into the pros. First off, this movie is technically, on a technical level, a masterpiece in every single way. The animation is stunning through all the different styles and character designs. They blend 2D, 3D, stop motion, all these different styles, and it's so amazing and impressive. Like I said, there's a bit of live action in there. And I would honestly say that visually, this might be the most visually stunning movie of all time. It is beautifully animated, very well lit, just some great colors and shots. Every different universe is so distinct, and it just makes for such a visually pleasing experience that makes every new section of the movie so interesting. The music by Daniel Pemberton is amazing. He takes his epic superhero score from the last film and introduces so many new elements to the different universes while still keeping that heroic beat, and it's awesome. The soundtrack is really good. This movie has a really great Spider-Man plotline where it upped the stakes from the previous film, and sometimes this movie gets a little convoluted, and that maybe takes away from the simplicity of the last film that I liked. but it leads to so many great fun cameos and moments and references, but they never detract from the overall film. They're just like a nice, fun moment. And it's really, really, I don't know, just a satisfying, fun cameo, all of them. And I love the Spider Society. I love the way the plot unravels and builds up. The Spot is such an interesting villain. And I love how there's kind of two villains in this. There's the Spot, who's the real villain, and there's Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 99, in the Spider Society, who's kind of like, they're trying to do the right thing, but Miles disagrees with them. And so they're trying to fight him. They're trying to take down Spot. And they think they're doing what's right, but they're like, they've kind of given in to like their fates, and they're kind of lost a little bit what makes them Spider-Man in doing that. And I think that just leads to a great plot, a great moral conundrum with Miles being the one Spider-Man who wasn't meant to be Spider-Man, which is such an interesting plot twist. And he's the one who's going to break away from the status quo. He's the one who's going to be like, no, I'm going to do everything in my power to try and save my family. And that just makes it so interesting and entertaining. It leads to a great classic Spider-Man story. I love all the everything between Miles and his parents. I love the different universes, the prologue. It's just all really well done. The characters are all amazing. Shameik Moore as Miles Morales. Miles Morales proves himself as just as iconic as Peter Parker in this movie. He is Spider-Man, and he's so wonderfully done. He's a great character arc. I'm so excited to see where his story goes. Gwen Stacy has an amazing time in the spotlight, especially her story with her father. I just love every other character. Spider-Man 2099, Genki, Peter B. Parker, Mayday. There's so many characters to list. I can't go through them all. Spider-Man India, and it just leads to a really fun movie. Amazing action. The web slinging and action is animated so well and is so engaging. I love the final battle with all the Spider-Man. It's so interesting. And I just think that this is just a phenomenal Spider-Man movie in every single way. It's very intense. It definitely is a lot more of a movie than the last film. And it definitely is part one of a story, and which are my only two criticisms of it. It doesn't really feel like, it's not this simplistic one and done story of the previous movie, which I loved. It ups the ante, it has a ton more cameo, a lot more going on, and it leaves things on a cliffhanger. And in a way that makes it so, as of right now, I still prefer Into the Spider-Verse. But I could see with more rewatches of this movie and Beyond the Spider-Verse coming out, I could see this movie rising up. But I still think it is a masterpiece in animation and visuals. It's got an amazing story and a great cast. And I'm so excited for the sequel to come out next year. So I would give Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse a 9.5 out of 10. It is, I'd say, top 3 Spider-Man movies for me, top 10 comic book movies, top 10 animated movies. And I'm sure in the end, as it goes on, it's going to be one of my favorite films of all time upon further watches. So I hope you guys like the movie, and I hope you guys like the review, and I hope to see you all soon with my reviews of Star Wars Visions and Peter Pan and Wendy in the next few days. See you then. Bye-bye.